my prayer today is that He fills you with a passion for righteousness. Lord, my prayer today is that Jesus will guide you through every storm. Yes, every storm. Lord, every storm. This is my prayer today.
I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out, righteousness. Welcome, everybody, to the Trust in the Lord Hour. I'm your host, and we've got a great afternoon, beginning of afternoon here in the Big Apple. Now, you may be listening to this in the middle of the night. However, welcome. And we have been in Proverbs now for 15 years, Proverbs chapter 3. And it has... Well, I'm looking for a new, if you will, definition that is very exciting about what Proverbs chapter 3 has done for me. Let me recommend this to you. If you are at a point in your life where you may be going through an experience that's not a good one, or you may be expecting a good experience, or you may think that perchance something could happen in your life that could present a decade of bad experiences. And so you might want, and you just want to build your life in a structured way. I believe that Proverbs chapter 3 perhaps is one of the more significant chapters in the entire Bible. And because it says in essence, and one of the, first of all, it says, my son, forget not the law of God, which is this is very important. I've done so much teaching on the law being the template of Jesus. And that's a whole nother subject matter. But it says in the verses that we spend a lot of our time on, to trust in the Lord with all thine heart, to trust in the Lord with everything that you have, with all of your substance, with everything that you are, with every degree, that you may obtain, or no degree that you don't have, sickness that you may have incurred. Trust in the Lord with everything that you are and everything that you hope to be. When Solomon writes, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, that's exactly what he means. He means with everything that you are. Even in your failures or your sins or your shortcomings or your infirmities, still trust him. Still trust in the Lord. And lean not to your own understanding, which promotes a lot of fear. It promotes a lot of, when you lean to your own understanding, well, this could happen to me, and that could happen to me. And, it promotes fear, and it also promotes infirmities. It promotes sicknesses. And by promoting fear, it stops you from advancing, because you say, well, what if this happens, or what if that happens? Now, Jesus said this, and maybe he said it better than Solomon said it, but I'm going to say it as well. They're too powerful. Jesus said about thinking about what bad things can happen to you. He said, take no thought for tomorrow. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 6, starting verse 33 or so, he says, take no thought for tomorrow. Sufficient unto the day. If you have today, that's enough. Tomorrow will take care of itself. So it's very difficult to say, well, I'm not going to plan for a bad experience tomorrow. Now, I'm not saying to you, don't plan if you're going to go on vacation, if you're going to travel, if you're going to go grocery shopping. You can do that. All those things they're non-essential. But don't worry about the bad things that can happen tomorrow. Don't worry about that. That's basically, I can't improve on what Jesus said. I'm not even trying to improve on what Jesus said or what Solomon said. I'm not trying to improve on it. If you're going to plan your vacation, I told people last month, a month ago, plan your vacation this year and for the next 5 years. So you do that. That's what Jesus meant when he said, take no thought for tomorrow, is don't plan for bad things to happen to you. Don't do that. Well, you're saying, well, don't take out any life insurance. I didn't say that either. What I am saying is that if you got today, today is good enough. If tomorrow's going to be a bad day, then deal with it tomorrow, but not today. Not today. Because what it does, it promotes sickness, it promotes infirmities, and it promotes fear. And you will say, well, I'm not going to do it because this is what's going to happen to me, and so forth and so on. Don't do that. I'm coming back to that. So Solomon writes, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not to thine own understanding. Do not lean to your limited amount of understanding. I don't care how smart you are, what degree you have. Don't lean to your own understanding. But in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths, which is the other thing. And then I'm going to tell you, maybe you've got a good life if you got some bad things happening to you. But the Lord will direct your paths. He will show you what to do when it's time for you to do it. He will show you. And the Lord may not be taking any thoughts for tomorrow. Don't lean to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and the Lord will show you what to do. He will direct your path. And on your darkest day and on your blackest night, God Almighty will direct your path. Trust that. Trust that. Trust it. And then there's one other thing I'd like to say, especially to younger people. You need to hang out with people like me. And when I tell you something, just need to do it, whether you understand it or not. You just need to do it. You just need to do it, because I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not about the business of telling you to do something that's going to be wrong. And I have had enough experiences in life in terms of the total network of what does a man go through? What are some of the experiences that you have? What is the total cumulative amount of experience that a person will have? I used to teach, and I don't do this, but when I was teaching Accomplished Dreams, or when I was teaching the men of the East or the women of the East or the Vestal Virgin groups here in the church, and I was teaching those groups, I taught them that going back a couple of centuries ago, when the Ming Dynasty dominated most of China, including the areas of Beijing and Shanghai, the Ming Dynasty really ran China. It was a family, and their last name was Ming. And in the Ming Dynasty, while they had many provinces in China, in order to be a leader, such as a mayor or a governor of a particular province in the Ming Dynasty period, you would have had to have studied law and completed that study, medicine as a doctor and completed that, philosophy and completed that as a doctor, literature and completed that. You would have had to have studied those major degrees or major issues before you would be allowed to be a governor or mayor or in the provinces of the Ming during the days of the Ming Dynasty. Now, why is that important? Because what I'm trying to say to you, I'm trying to tell people, you really need to come up and listen to what I'm saying. Because the experiences that you're going to have in life, I've already had them. Please listen to me, young people. Please listen to me. The experiences in life that you're going to have, I've already had them. Now, you haven't had them yet, but I've already had them. I've already dealt with them. I've already dealt with them, and having already dealt with them and come out successfully as I stand before you or sit before you today, then I can lead you when you have that experience. Now, you may not have the experience until another 10 years. You're going to have it, and when you do have it, you'll have someone who has already gone through it. So when you are a young person, and I say to young people, come sit at my feet and listen to me. Don't think that I'm crazy. And the thing of it is this, being your youthfulness cries out that experience is crazy. Some will say experience is the best teacher. There's only those who've gone through experience. But when you're a young person, when you are a young person, your youth will say to you that experience is crazy. For instance, so young people come and listen to me because I've had the experiences that you're going to have. I've had them all. I've had all the experiences that you're ever going to have. And then the other thing you got to trust that if I give you some advice, I'm giving you some advice about an experience. I've already had the experience that you're going to have or that you're presently going through. And I would never tell you the wrong answer because I figured out what's the right answer for this particular circumstance. I've had those experiences. I've had them. We have a young preacher in our church named Jose Matos, and he was listening to Elder Salem the other day talking about his experiences with his wife giving birth to his first child. Well, what Minister Matos was saying is that when he was young, he didn't have the experiences that he now see the elder having, and he regrets it. And he thought it was crazy to do that at that time. He thought it was the craziest thing. So I'm saying to you, let me tell you something. Having me as your pastor, as your leader in your youth, there is no amount of money you can pay for my experiences. You can't pay me for my experiences. You can't. And I've had the thing that you're going to go through in life is if you live, you're going to have the experiences. But I've already had them. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God, and he will direct your paths. I have already had the experiences you're going to. I am more valuable to you if you will have enough sense. If you would have enough sense to say, and by the way, this just isn't for young people. It's for older people as well. This invitation to let me be your teacher, your guide, your counselor, your lawyer. I've had those experiences. I have had them. And one of the reasons that Jesus came, in addition to the salvation of humanity, all of those who plead the blood, was to experience what we experience. And not that he couldn't do it existentially, but for us to know that Jesus suffered the way we suffered, that Jesus hungered the way we hunger. We know that, and we can relate to him. So it is very important that you lean not to your own understanding in all your way. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him. So here's a man, Pastor Manning, who's had most experiences that anybody on the planet has had. I've had some semblance of wealth. I don't have it now. By the way, y'all can send me an offering. We need to put a new heating system in our building, and the oil company that services our building sent us an estimate the other day that the oil to put a new mechanical heating system in our building will cost us $70,000. And we are not going to get a brand new roof at this present moment. But to repair where we are right now on this nearly 200-year-old building will cost at least $25,000. That's $95,000 we're going to need by October. Send me an offering. But I don't have wealth now. I don't have it now. Not in the terms of the way I had when I was out in the street and running around and robbing and stealing the way I had. That was ill-gotten wealth, and it didn't last very long. But however, so listen to me. If you have been rejecting me because my experiences seem strange or seem odd to you, I've been beaten by the police. I can tell you this, all these people jumping up and down on television and talking about police brutality have never themselves been beaten by the police. They just see it as a philosophical, political, way to advance their own cause. They're really not interested in telling young boys when the police says stop, stop. The police says put your hands on the steering wheel, put your hands on the steering wheel. They're not going to teach that because that doesn't get them any opportunity to speak at funerals that's carried by CNN globally. Well, they want to be able to speak at that funeral. They're waiting for the next person to die so they can fly around in a private jet and go and get treated up in a nice hotel, and and then get to speak to an audience on CNN and MSNBC carried around the world. Tyler Perry will say, "Take my private jet." This is how awful the police did to this young man. The preacher, "Take my private jet and fly there, and I'll take care of all the cost and everything." Well, every time somebody gets shot by the police, these preachers get an opportunity to live that lavish lifestyle. So they're not going to tell you the truth, but I've been beaten by the police and by a whole gang of them and sent to the hospital. So I've had that experience. I've sat down in the White House with the President of the United States. I've had those experiences. It is very important that you listen. Take the time, and even in your older age. There's some experiences that you've already gone through and made a mistake because you leaned to your own understanding. But even now, at this present moment, you really haven't matured to the area comparable to your age. So therefore, there's some experiences yet you ought to have that I can teach you if you will humble yourself and accept me as your pastor, as your counselor, as your lawyer, as your leader. If you will accept that, then the experiences that you're going to have, I can give you the counsel. Jesus says this, says, take no thought for tomorrow. You got today, deal with today. Worrying about tomorrow will produce fear and will produce ill productivity. Sufficient unto the day is good enough. Solomon writes, lean not to your own understanding in Proverbs chapter 3. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. I'm saying to you, if you will humble yourself, accept me as your leader, accept me. I've had those experiences. I've had some experiences probably that you're never, ever going to have. But I've had the ones that you are going to have, I guarantee you, I've already had them. And like in the Ming Dynasty teaching I did many years ago, and I'm thinking about rekindling the men of the East. The Vestal Virgins are doing okay, but the Accomplished Dreams class, to go back to that. I've had every experience you're going to have, I've had it. There are a number of people who have never, that you have as a leader, who have not had the experiences. And if experience is the best teacher, then you want the person with the best experience. For instance, I've worked on the chain gang, right? I've been in prison. You show me a preacher. Let's say you got, I like brother so-and-so or Reverend Rabbitfoot as my preacher, but he doesn't have the experience that I have. So therefore, he's not as qualified as I am to be your pastor and your leader under circumstances. Has your pastor ever been in prison, worked on the chain gang? Actually worked on the chain gang? So a man was standing over with a shotgun, yet he's now a pastor preacher. I've had that experience. I've dealt with that. That changes a man. That makes that if a man, listen, if you see me, talk about others, your preacher probably hasn't had very many experience of anything. So therefore his life abilities are very limited. You want someone with more experience. And let's say, for instance, you have a doctor, you have been diagnosed with a cancer or some disease. Is that right? You've been diagnosed with a disease. And when you go to the doctor, you want the doctor with the most experience. You don't want a doctor who just got out of school or a doctor who has had very much experience at dealing with cancer. You want the doctor with the most, you want that gray-haired doctor with the horn-rimmed glasses. You want the man with the most experience. You're the same thing for your pastor. You want the pastor with the most experience. Let that other fella grow and get the experience that Pastor Manning has. And then maybe you want that doctor, when you go to that diagnosis come forward, you want a doctor with the most, you don't want a lightweight. You tell me what preacher you know that has worked on the chain gang while at the same time has acquired and attained a master's degree in divinity from the most prestigious divinity school on the planet, Union Theological Seminary. who has spoken at Oxford University in London, in England, or in Oxford. These experiences. You want a pastor, you want a counselor, you want a lawyer who's had these. So if you humble yourself, submit yourself to me as your pastor, your counselor, your lawyer, and humble yourself, the things I'm going to say to you are going to sound crazy because you have not had the experience. And youth says to you, experience is crazy. Until you get it, then you'll say experience is the best teacher. But if you're a young person, you loathe old people. You think they're crazy. And the reason why they seem crazy, it isn't they seem crazy. You're crazy because the things that you're doing are crazy things. Such as Minister Jose Matos, who didn't go to the hospital with two of his wives that were giving birth. That was crazy. That was crazy. Somebody tried to tell him he shouldn't do it. He thought that was crazy. Now he realized that that was the best thing. But when you're young, young says experience is crazy. And when you're old, you say experience is the best teacher. So if you got a pastor, listen to me. Listen to me, because I'm going to tell you something here. You want to have me as your pastor, as your leader, because of all the experiences I have had. Like the Ming Dynasty, you can't become a leader unless you know law, medicine, philosophy, literature. You could not be a leader in the Ming Dynasty. You could not lead the Chinese people unless you had those experiences. Your pastor, or even the people that are a counselor, don't have the experience that I have. And let's say, for instance, you're listening to this, and I'm going to do a teaching further on this, and when we get to, if I can get there to the Open Rewards prayer meeting, and I'm holding a prayer meeting about this, and I'm going to do some things in just a moment that are tail ending from Saturday's worship service. But Solomon writes, lean not to your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, in Proverbs. Jesus says in Matthew's gospel, he said, take no thought for tomorrow. If you got today, it's sufficient thereof. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't plan your vacations, or you shouldn't plan your meals, or plan, this or that or the other. That are really worldly things. What he's saying is, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry. Don't worry about tomorrow. Let me give an example of this. That we've had a foreclosure case going on now. I guess for the last couple of years we've been fighting it. And I have what was once the city of New York or the Mellon Bank bringing me to court. I have now turned the corner and taken them to court. Listen, I could not have gotten to that point, and really no one that I talked to told me that I could turn the table on this matter. No one told me that I could turn the table rather than them taking me to court. Why don't I take them to court? I didn't know I could do that. That has added an extra power. That has put some bricks in my knapsack. I can tell you that right now. I didn't know I could do that. And though I talked with a myriad number of lawyers, none of them ever broached the idea, why don't you take them to court? Until a young man came down from Boston and said to me, why don't you take them to court? Now, I have to say as well, we're presently in court, and I don't want to have fear or take thought, but I do want to express something. I've given this matter another year and a half to be completely resolved. And there are going to be court decisions going forward. Some may be good, some may be bad. I've looked at, I don't worry about this or that, or this judge or that judge at this present moment. I've gone ahead and said, well, a year and a half from this will be resolved, because a year and a half ago, I didn't know I could take these people to court, to trial, to court. I could bring them to court. I didn't know that. So I'm not worried about what decision this is going to happen tomorrow, who's going to make this decision, what lawyer is going to do this or that or the other. What I do want to say is that no lawyer that came into my purview had the experience to tell me, Pastor Manning, you can take these people to court. Now, there are plenty of lawyers out there that would know that, but I didn't have any most of the ones I had contact with were not experienced like this. So you want to be able to submit yourself to me as your pastor and say, well, the experiences you've had. I mean, and you've heard many of you who know me over the years, my experience in terms of running the streets, being a gangster, being a thief, being a liar, going to prison. My experience is working as a marketing manager or agent for Procter & Gamble, which was a very prestigious position. Marketing for Procter & Gamble, having a company car, and having my housing paid for by a major multinational blue chip corporation on the stock market. I worked for them. I worked for Ford Motor Company. And then, of course, I worked in the street, robbing and stealing. I once drove a gypsy cab. I was a cab driver. They call it Uber now. It wasn't that then. And I grew up in rural North Carolina. I posted up the other day I tweeted out the fact that I started a school. I'm going to start a school. And the school I started, the graduates have gone on and been accepted at Yale, at Juilliard, at New York Law School, Cardozo Law School, New York University, Fordham University, St. John's, Pratt Institute. Who do you know? Has your pastor ever done anything like that? Are the people that you're taking advice from, do they have that kind of experience? Everything from the chain gang to driving a gypsy cab, right, to working for Procter & Gamble, having started a school and sent students into law school, into medical school. I've done that. So when I come to you to talk to you, you need to listen to me. You can't reject me because you got some crazy, wild idea that's stemming out of your youth that says crazy, crazy, crazy. And but moreover, I stated that I'm a sharecropper son. If you don't believe me, I got a man who probably you'll believe. His name is James Honaker. And you probably believe him. He says, I'm a sharecropper's son. And I am. I grew up walking barefoot most of the first 10 years of my life, plowing a mule. Somebody asked me the other day, and this is only for those who understand that. He says, is that plow you're plowing a single hitch or a double hitch? Now, you have got to go way back. I think we can pull up the picture of that, Mr. Engineer. You got to go way back to find out what a single hitch and a double hitch plow is. I did plow a double hitch from time to time, but most of the time it was just a single hitch. But I plowed a mule. That's right. I grew up. People talk to me about racism and about Jim Crow, and you can't talk to me. Not even Dr. King can talk to me. I grew up in what was segregated South. I graduated from a segregated school. Don't be trying to talk to me about the black man, about blackness. You don't have any idea. That's why my ideas and my thoughts seem crazy to all these racist black people. And black people, by the way, are the most racist people. You can get rid of black people, America would have peace in the valley. It's black people. I'm telling you the absolute truth. I know they're going to get me a lot of angst. If America got rid of all this black people, all white people would have peace with one another. I'm telling you the absolute truth. Black people are the most racist, problematic, government crumb snatching. Black people are terrible. And the higher they go up in their education to Harvard or to Yale, which is where we send some of our students, the worse they become. They take that diseased blackness, that diseased racism to the highest level. Then they get put on platforms on MSNBC and CNN and professors at Harvard, professor at George Washington University, and they take that racism to those platforms. But black people are the most racist people. But they don't understand that. But you can't talk to me about that racism. So I'm saying to you that if you accept my counsel, if you're young, it's going to sound like it's crazy. And that's what youth said. Youth says experience is crazy until you get experience, and you say experience is the best teacher. So Solomon says this, and so does Jesus. Mr. Engineer, pull up Matthew's Gospel chapter. Find that verse about sufficient unto the day. Take no thought for tomorrow. That's in Matthew 6. I don't know the exact verse of it, but I'll sign you to do that. But Solomon says, lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. And Solomon writes from this perspective. He says, my son, meaning that you're younger than I, take no thought, follow the law, keep the law, and it will give you good understanding. It'll bless your heart. It'll give you favor with men and with God. Solomon writes. And he says, honor the Lord with your substance and your first fruits. and to be honorable with Almighty God about your money. You're on the honor system. I think this engine has found the scripture. Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. Take no thought for tomorrow. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow shall take care of itself. Don't worry about it. So here's what I've done. I've decided that going through the process of the foreclosure that we're in right now is going to take another year and a half. And there may be some ups and there may be some downs. I've decided, don't worry about tomorrow. I've gone ahead and taken away tomorrow and said, well, it'll take another year and a half before all this is finally solved and resolved, and we'll move on from there. But not tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Solomon says, and the way Solomon says it, and Jesus says it better than Solomon. Let's put it that way. Let's give Jesus Jesus says, Solomon says, lean not to your own understanding. And all thy ways acknowledge him. In other words, don't worry about this or that. You get the idea. So now here's what I want to do. Having said that, by the way, we need to raise that $95,000. And the other thing is now that I'm the lawyer, we may have to acquire another lawyer just to do some things for Bethelite. Now that we have a lawyer, I don't have to start talking about lawyer expenses. However, I will ask you at some point in time to help me find an attorney that could represent Bethelite, because the courts won't let me represent Bethelite. Now, there are a lot of things I can do on behalf of Bethelite or on behalf of myself that will affect Bethelite, but the courts will not allow me to represent Bethelite. So at some point in time, I'm going to have to go and plop down a retainer fee, and I'll talk to you about that. Not now. What I do want to talk to you about is I need to raise this $95,000 to get this new mechanical system in before it gets cold here in New York, and because it's a heating system. But here's what I want to do. I want to turn a corner for just a second, and I want to, we have been doing the Old Daniel Vision to Vision, and this is Old Daniel Vision to Vision number 4, Captain Lewis. But I plotted out, or in my heart and spirit, looking at what happened to Daniel there in Babylon, that the devils, he prayed and God answered. God sent the answer, and the devil caught the answer and held it for 21 days before Michael the angel came and fought with the devil and took the answer out of the devil's hand. And so one of the segments that I will do, in segment number 3 of this teaching, will be, has God sent your answer, but the devil is holding it up? Has God, you prayed for whatever it is you're praying for, but the devil is holding it up? That's number 3. And number 4, segment number 4 is, when will your Michael come? For Michael was the angel that fought with Satan, the prince of darkness, and shook loose the answer. And then segment number 2, after vision to vision, my vision of Allah, Daniel's vision of God's blessing for the people in Babylon. Second number 2 is mechanism, and I'm going to get to that, but not today. The Lord let me get to it. I got to wrap all this up. What I want to do now is wrap up some things that I left from Sabbath worship. I could redo them on this coming Sabbath, but today, in terms of when I'm doing this, you may be listening to this a year from now on a Wednesday afternoon. But today is Monday. Saturday is a long way off between me and the Lord and the Holy Ghost. Between now and the time I'm going to pray every morning, I'm going to talk to the Lord every day. The Holy Ghost is going to lead and guide and direct me. Between now and Saturday, it's like 1,000 years. So I may not even be here on Saturday. I may be someplace else. I may be down in Cape May, New Jersey, or someplace out on the beach again. By the way, I showed a picture of my people of me being on the beach down in Myrtle Beach, fully dressed. I want to take off my clothes. I don't show my body, Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not into that kind of thing. But I think I scared the people to death. Here's a man out in the beach with all his clothes. He's got on his pants. He's got on his shirt. It's not in the beach. Everybody else in bikinis and short pants and swimsuits. And I am on the beach. I think I'm not going to do that. At least I could take off my shirt. That wouldn't be too bad. Y'all wouldn't mind looking at looking at my punched out belly. Is that right? So I think next time I go to the beach, I'm going to take off I'll keep my pants on. But anyway, so here's what I want to do. And then I'm going to let y'all go, so I figure I got something else to do. I want to, I was teaching Saturday about the greatest prophecy since Jesus spoke, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place, I'll come and receive you unto myself. In my Father's house are many mansions. So what Jesus said was that I'm going to prepare a luxury house for you. Not a shelter, not just a regular run-of-the-mill place where you can be comfortable. He said, I'm going to prepare a luxury house for you, a mansion. That's the word he put it in. Now, I cautioned, I said that I wasn't going to talk so much about the luxury, but I wasn't going to, if you will, stymie what Jesus has said, because I didn't want it to seem like a prosperity message. But Jesus said, I'm going to prepare a luxury mansion for you. Is that right? Elder Butler. Jesus said that he's going to prepare a luxury house for you. He said a mansion. Now, Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 6, and I'm going to ask the engineer if he'll pull that up, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 11, Moses said this to the children of Israel. Now, Moses is 120 years old, and he's been around, he's been hanging out with the Lord for the last 80 years in the same place, in a desert. Moses, at least for the first 40 years of his life, lived in a luxury house, so he knew what it was. But the last 80 years of Moses' life, he lived in a desert. So, he tells the children of Israel, you're going across the Jordan, Trans-Jordan, and you're going to live in houses that you didn't build. You're going to live in cities that you didn't build. And the houses that you're going to live in are going to be luxury houses filled with good things. You see that verse 11? It said, in the houses full of all good things, which thou fillest not, that you're going to be living in that. Now, there's a place, leave that there, Mr. Engineer. There's a place here in New York City. Well, let me not go into, I was discussing something with Sabbath earlier today on the phone about a hotel. Well, let's just leave it as it is. But Moses said to the children of Israel, and by the way, these children had never lived in a house, right? Now, this is a wrap-up from Saturday. These children, these Israelites, well, they're not Israelites, I don't use that term because think about these morons running around here. These sons of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob that had been slaves had never lived in a house. They lived in tents. They have never in their lives lived in a house. Well, maybe a couple of them did, some of them, but most of them had never lived in a house. They were getting ready to go across and Moses said, you're going to live in houses, not tents, not in a desert, but you're going to live in a house, something they had never lived in. 30 years old and never lived in a house, lived in a tent. And said, and then Moses, now this is Moses, these people got to be looking at Moses like, what on earth are you talking about? You sound like Pastor Manning, Moses. And these houses are going to be full of good things, which you didn't put in them. But they're going to be good things. And this is the thing that got Moses in trouble in the wilderness of Zin, where he struck the rock, and the rock brought forth water, almost drowned the people. So much water came out that rock the way Moses struck it. And he was angry, but he said, you're going to drink from wells, which is something that they didn't have in the desert either. They didn't have any wells in the desert. There was a place called Elam where there was some water with 70 palm trees and 12 palm trees or something like that. At any rate, so Moses says that you're going to live in these houses, luxury houses, right? So let's get this right. Jesus said in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 14, that in John's Gospel, pardon me, chapter 14, that I'm going to prepare a luxury mansion for you. Moses said, once you cross Jordan, you're going to live in luxury houses. Now listen to this very carefully, Elder Butler. Listen to this very carefully. And he said that Pastor Manning, that's me, says that Atla means that the members of Atla are going to live in houses that are luxury houses that they didn't build and that they didn't furnish. But Atla comes that they're going to live, that the members of Atla are going to live in luxury houses. Brother Jesse Munoz, listen to this. So check this out. When you help us, and many of you don't live here in the community, formerly known as Harlem, but God has changed the name of this community to Atla. You don't live here, and perhaps some of you never will. But when you help us, when you financially support or you join the ministry or we have a special conference or you'll use your vacation day to come to the church, when you help us, you help bring the vision to pass. But listen to this from Saturday's message. Not only does the prophecy of Atla say that the members of Atla are going to live in luxury houses, same as Jesus said you're going to live in luxury houses, same as Moses said you're going to live in luxury houses. But the prophecy of Atla says that there's going to be a luxury place. When Jesus comes back, he's going to return to Atla, which is going to be a luxury place. Now, just put that in your pipe and smoke it. Think about that for just a second. Think about that. And when those of you who will listen to me, who can help, you can start by sending financial gifts. You can start by giving to us, automobiles, or you can give houses, or you can give land, where the Baptist preacher did down there in Tennessee. By doing that, you further and hasten the vision, and you further and hasten getting ready for Jesus to return. And one of the things I want you to do, I want you to understand that Jesus has assigned me to prepare a place for him. This is from the Sabbath message. Jesus has assigned me to prepare a place for him, right? Now, of all the things that you know about me, you know that I am faithful to Atla for 33 years. I am faithful to Atla, Elder Smith, for 33 years. Jesus has assigned me the responsibility of preparing a place for him. Now, listen to this. The place that, when you look at, think of the what's the word I'm looking for? Think of the craziness of the Hamite people and also Japheth people and Shemites as well about having a black president, how racist they were. Think about the racism that is in the churches, in the so-called black churches, the black preachers, the black politicians. When politicians, black Hamites, that's who they are, but they call themselves black, run for office, they don't run for office about building a new Hoover Dam or building the Tennessee Valley Association or producing a brand new electric car or producing this, that. When black people run for office, the only thing they run on is racism. They don't run on building a manufacturing or raising this or finding a cure for cancer. That ain't what black politicians, when they run for office, they're running on one thing. We racist. We racist, we black, we racist, we want racial equality. That's all. Every last one of them, whether it's mayor or whether it's president or whether they race. But suppose, do you think, now listen to this very carefully, do you think that Jesus would call someone who out of every word out of his mouth is racism? Do you think Jesus would trust someone to prepare a place for him who all he does is talk about racism and about race and about this and about that, and then contradicts the Bible, contradicts the fact that the Bible said the Jews were going to be slaves, contradicts the Bible that says that black people were going to be slaves, now they're Hamites. All they do is contradict the Bible all day long and never look to the Bible, never look to the Lord, never look to God for whatever might be their problems, and never tell themselves the truth about how wretched black people are, how decrepit they are, how unproductive they are. Do you think Jesus would call someone to prepare a place for him that talks like Al Sharpton? That's the devil's servant. Al Sharpton serves the devil. He and a whole lot of others. He ain't the only one. He's not the singular one. But think about this. Think about the racism that's in black people. We're black president. I president, black president. We black people got to stick together. Let me tell you something. Jesus would not send someone who preaches that kind of preaching. He wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. He would not do it. So the experience that I have, if you will listen to me, I can show you how to have a good life. Now, you can live the way you're living. You're going to keep on messing up. And by the way, I'm not just talking to young people, but older people as well. You're going to keep on messing up. You're going to keep on messing. Pastor Manning crazy. That man crazy. We don't understand that. That man crazy. Let me say something to you. You have an opportunity to have me as your pastor, one who's worked for Procter & Gamble, a major marketing firm. paid good money, worked for Ford Motor Company, also worked on the chain gang, was a thief, robbed people's houses, been beaten and left for dead by the police, hospitalized, graduated with a master's degree, have started a school and sent children off to the medical degrees and law degrees. Does your pastor have that kind of experience? Does your pastor speak from that depth? Does your pastor have that? Does your pastor have that ability? Does he have that understanding? When you get that cancer diagnosis, you want a doctor who has had some experience, not some young neophyte. You want somebody with some experience. Treat your cancer or anything else. Even your lawyer, you want someone with experience. Who do you know? Well, think about it this way, and I'm going to let y'all go. Who do you know that has had more experience at life and life matters, at leadership and spirituality than James David Manning? And that's me. Who do you know? Who do you know? You may know an older pastor who's maybe in his 90 years of age, but he probably never worked on the chain gang. He's never been arrested and beaten and left for dead. Or he's never worked for a major marketing corporation, a blue chip corporation. Who do you know? So think about what you're throwing away when you throw me away. Think about that for just a second. Think about the potential that you can have in terms of being guided. Now, if you decide to have me as your pastor, submit yourself. You're going to have to do the Sabbath thing. We ain't go that Sunday route. I'll tell you that right now. You have to give that up as well, because that's the work of Constantine. That's not a poor misapplication and interpretation of the writings and teaching of the great Apostle Paul. Sabbath deniers. But you're going to have to give up a lot of crazy, crazy stuff. And it usually takes about, 7 years. See, I said on one of my cards I sent out some time ago, I said, give me 7 weeks of your time and I can break poverty in your life, heal your sickness, baptize you with wisdom and power. It should be actually 7 years of your life. Than a card I put out some time ago. But this is where we are. Here's where we are. Now, Minister Holnaker wrote a song, and I'm going to stop playing the song after a while. I may even play the song he wrote called Tennessee Whiskey. I don't know if Minister Holnaker is listening, but he wrote a song, Tennessee Whiskey. I'll tell you that. I've been thinking about playing that song, Tennessee Whiskey, by Minister Holnaker. I don't get any copyright problems. You know how they hate me on YouTube and Facebook and throw me off all the time, put me in jail, and like they did some time ago. But anyway, he wrote a song, and the song he wrote puts it in lyrics. By the way, Jimmy Buffett died. Did you hear about that? He puts in lyrics the thing I just talked to you for the last 40 minutes. Pastor Madden, he talks about my experiences. Because y'all probably wonder why I play that song so much. It's just a message. You accept me as your pastor. That little old guy you got that you call a pastor, I wouldn't walk across the street to hand him the New Testament. Doesn't have an experience. I mean, here's a man, James David Manning, with a wealth of experience. And the decisions that he makes seem to you to be crazy because you're young or you're inexperienced. So remember this, youth cries out and says experience is crazy. But once you have experience, you realize experience is the best teacher. So I'm a better teacher than that pastor you got. I'm a better teacher because I have greater experiences than he or whoever. I'm a better one. And a far better one, not just better, but far better, because if experience is the best teacher, you don't know anybody. You don't know any politician with the experience that I have. And that's why God chose me. That's why God chose me. And not only that, that's why God put us through that. And the other thing is, I think that I want to give a shout out to Virtuous Rita. Virtuous Rita, who just returned from Rome, from Tuscany, from Florence. I want to give a shout out to her. She said to me after listening to the Sabbath message, she said, God let you go through all those things to grow you, to give you an experience. She's absolutely right. Virtuous Rita. She's absolutely right. She's right on point on that matter. You don't know anybody who's had the experiences that I've had. And I'm here today, a healthy, good-looking young man, right? Your pastor, your political leader cannot hold a candle to the experiences that I have had. Therefore, I'm the best teacher. I'm the best you're ever going to get. I'm the best you're ever going to get. And I'm going to say things to you that are going to seem crazy to you because you're very inexperienced. And youth says that that experience is crazy, or what that age is crazy. Not age, but that experience is crazy. But age says experience is the best teacher. Okay, I'm going to let you listen to Mr. Honaker and talk about, he wrote this song, I don't know, 2 years ago, my experiences. Mr. Engineer.
Pastor Manning, you are the one to preach righteous and true. You're a sharecropper, son. Pastor Manning, the things you've been through, the Obama years, tribulation Trump too. Pastor Manning, you get knocked down, you get back up, you preach on holy ground. Pastor Manning, you're the one. You preach righteous and truth. You're a sharecropper's son.
Shall not be moved. I shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the waters. I shall not be moved. Heavy, I shall not be moved. When my burden's heavy, I shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the waters. I shall not be moved. your healing, I shall turn to you. Lord, when I need your healing, I shall turn to you. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, oh, I shall not be moved. I shall not be moved. Lord, I shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the waters, I shall not be moved.
My heart can sing when I pause to remember a heartache here is but a stepping stone along the trail that
I'm the Lord's servant. I'm asking now is to give truth a chance. All I've ever told anybody is the truth. Now, just because you didn't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. And I'm asking people to give truth a chance.
All around, you hear the lies being told from the top. Every time you turn around, it just don't seem to stop. When you're ready to move far beyond that same old dance, all you gotta do is listen, yeah, and give truth a chance.
Give truth a chance.
Everybody,
Give truth a chance.
come on and sing it.
Give truth a chance. Give truth a chance.
I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. Welcome, everybody, to the Manning Report. Look at those blue skies we got there. They look through clouds hanging out. Enough cloud. Did you hear about the Burning Man concert out in North Country of Nevada, up there in that dusty, dry area of Nevada? It's an annual event, right? I think Chris Rock was out there at that event this past weekend, and there came a torrent of rain in Nevada and created mud 2 feet thick. Everybody was stuck with their campers, their tennis shoes. And I understand that finally that the Burning Man people got stranded out there, and so they're now trying to get out of that area about that. I've never been to that concert. I might decide to go at some point in time because I could have been out there. I think yesterday with Elizabeth and I, our wedding anniversary. I really had planned to be traveling during our wedding anniversary this year, but for whatever reason, I decided to come back. Short money got short. Well, not really. I mean, well, yeah. And but I'm concerned also about some of the members and their ability to go on vacation. At any rate, I was down in Myrtle Beach. I was down there, and Sister Angela King, who was our #1 fan, didn't come out and say hello to me. So I'm going to change now and make Deacon Eric Miller #1. I'm going to make Deacon Jesse Munoz #2. Because Sister King didn't come, and Sister King should have came down to Myrtle Beach. We could go swimming together. I don't know if y'all seen Sister King's granddaughter. She got a ton of like 30, 40 granddaughters. Every time I turn around, there's a picture of one of them out there. And every time I see them, they look like they're wearing a swimsuit, even though they got long pants on. Anyway, but an extraordinary broadcast we want to be able to bring today. And I want to get started with the broadcast today with an interview that Al Sharpton did with Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. And there are a couple of things I need to pull your coat to before we go into I'm going to let you watch the video. There are a couple of things. One is that Al Sharpton was on MSNBC. Obama recommended that he be put on MSNBC. He was given a 5 o'clock spot Monday through Friday, rather. And I protested against him. And MSNBC, a couple of his sponsors, and MSNBC took him down. And he stayed off for about a year. Then they put him back up again on Saturday and Sunday at 5 o'clock, which is a no-time spot. Saturday afternoon, people aren't watching the news. On Sunday afternoon, they ain't watching the news either. And Al Sharpton's broadcast called Politic Nation on Saturday and Sunday is a flop. And so Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe has had him on several times. And then the other very popular, everybody except, what's that woman name, has had him on Rachel Maddow. I think she's the only one that don't tolerate Sharpton. I don't think she likes him, which is understandable. Maybe Al Sharpton don't like her, which would be understandable as well. But they're trying to, people like Joe Scarborough was a very powerful morning show. So he and Mika are on from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock every day, 4 hours a day. Listen, I do a lot of broadcasts. I don't know how on earth they are on air for 4 hours. But anyway, they bring Al Sharpton on because they're trying to improve his ratings. They're trying to get people to watch him. Nobody wants to watch Al Sharpton. So in fact, they got this woman named Simone, who comes on the weekend as well, but between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, who's got a much larger audience, because Miss Simone has got a much larger body, too. I said Bernie Sanders about her. I think Simone Sanders is her name. Anyway. So Al Sharpton's broadcast on Saturday afternoon is a dud. So he was able to get presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. That boy needs a new name, too. All those Ramaswamy. To come on his broadcast to interview him. Now, Ramaswamy he's a Punjab. Before then, India, I think his parents came as legal immigrants to this country. He says he's a billionaire. I believe him. I think he's graduated Harvard, and he did something at Yale. He's brilliant. I mean, he's a talker, too. And very possibly a liar also, but I don't want to call him that at present. So let's hold that tag for just a second. Anyway, so Al Sharpton said he'll debate him, and probably what Al Sharpton was looking to do by bringing Vivek Ramaswamy on was to get a big audience, and maybe he can bring his ratings back up. I don't know why MSNBC continues to feed him. Listen, CNN took Van Jones off of CNN. Van Jones had a Saturday night show, I think a Saturday and Sunday night show, and the show with Van Jones, y'all know him, the guy that Elon Musk gave $100 million to. And he was if you will, what kind of climate czar for Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama. And CNN still has Van Jones on some of the talk shows, but his show he had on Saturday night flopped. The way Al Sharpton's show is flopped, but they're scared to get rid of Sharpton. Anyway, so I'm gonna make some comments about what I observed Al Sharpton taking on Vivek Ramaswamy. Mr. Engineer, let it roll.
According to a brand new Wall Street Journal poll out today that was conducted entirely after the first Republican presidential debate.
By the way, one very important thing. For those of you who are repelled at the very presence of Al Sharpton, and I understand it. I mean, he is a scoundrel beyond scoundrels. And you're probably just repelled knowing who he is, knowing the dirty spirit that he possesses. And for me to bring him into your home or into your business today, If it offends you, I apologize. But I'm going to ask you to endure this for the Manning Report's sake. I know how repulsive this man is to so many people. I mean, he's just, anyway, I apologize, but please, for the Manning Report's sake, let him be in your presence today with that annoying voice of his. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
The release of Donald Trump's Fulton County mugshot, the former president holds a whopping 46-point lead over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis among GOP primary voters, 59 to 13%. My next guest is also somewhere on that list, but with much less support, with 5%. Joining me now is 2024 presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. First of all, thank you for being here and engaging us in this conversation. I want to start with comments you made repeatedly now, referring to Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and author Ibram Kendi as, quote, grand wizards of the modern KKK. Now, I understand you differ with both of them politically and probably with me, but as a graduate of Harvard and Yale universities, I believe you must be aware the Ku Klux Klan is not a political party. It's a terrorist organization. Historians view the Klan as the driving force behind lynchings of blacks in the American South, more than 4,000 people murdered from 1877 to 1950. And the group is linked to numerous other acts of racial violence continuing through the civil rights movement to the present day. You're running to be the leader of the free world, so your choice of words matter. Have you taken any time to reflect upon the possibility that comparing your political rivals to murderous terrorists might put their lives in danger at a time when hate crimes are on the rise? Or do you just don't care?
So Reverend Sharpton, I don't look at the world through political parties. Frankly, it's good to see it's been 20 years since we last spoke. And part of the reason that I came to that event 20 years ago with you is that you were a political outsider just like I am in my own party. But let me talk about the issue you're actually asking about, which is that, you know, what's toxic about that old worldview of organizations like the KKK, which have been a god-awful stain on our national history, is that they say that your skin color determines what you're allowed to say, what you're allowed to think. To say you have to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told because you're black or brown skinned. Well, you know what Ayanna Pressley said much more recently is that we don't want any more black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't want any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. And so, yes, I do think there are echoes of a historical ugly racism in this country now showing up in new clothing.
To say we
and
don't
what I
want
want to lead us to as the next president
just a second,
is a united nation where we
black
don't actually
voices,
judge each other on the color of our
skin. To say
skin.
that is not going with sheets and burning crosses and lynching people. If she said something you disagree with,
the point I'm making,
you cannot.
Listen, Ramaswamy is right. What that congresswoman said was racist, and racist to the core. The problem is that black people, now they're Hamites, they think they have a right because of slavery and because of their failures as contributors to global, if you will, prosperity and engineering, that they have a right to be racist, that their racism doesn't stink. Only the racism of the Klan or someone else. But what Ramaswamy is saying is that that congresswoman's racism is just as similar to the KKK's racism, and the thing that Al Sharpton has made mention of is that they wore white sheets, or they covered their faces, or that they burned crosses, etc. Somehow or another, that the congresswoman has not done that. Distinguishes them. Well, I'm going to show you a picture in a few moments of what Al Sharpton looked like 20 years ago. Now he wears skinny suits, but Sharpton, but the thing that you wear that Ramaswamy couldn't, I'm sure he knows, but probably forbear from saying, is that you black people think y'all have a right. You think you have a God-given right to be racist. The other thing is that a lot of constitutional laws, as I said in the earlier piece, when black people run for office, they don't run for office to build the Hoover Dam or the Tennessee Valley Association or to build a new environment. They run for office simply on racism only. That's only. So black people think, and ignorantly, and you cannot change them. They'll all have to die the way the children of Israel died out in the wilderness. You're not going. I can tell you this right now. You're not going to change black people's racism. They ain't. They going to be. They even try to change Jesus to be black. They will die before they stop being racist. But they're the most racist people on the planet, and they think they have a right to be racist. And Ramaswamy could have said that, but he probably didn't want to blow up the television station the other day. But go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, with somebody saying something that you think is a little controversial or a little too far. Some of our relatives were terrorized by the Ku Klux Klan. I'm trying to get you to understand the pain of that. I know you're
intellectually honest. I know you're an intellectually honest guy, and so I will remind you that Hakeem Jeffries drew analogies between Donald Trump and the Ku Klux Klan, and I don't think you had him on pressing him in the same way. So we're drawing analogies here to make a point.
He did not call Donald Trump the Grand Dragon of the KKK. He did not call Donald Trump an officer of the modern KKK. Let's not change what was said.
So, Reverend Sharpton, though, I'm calling out a double standard and saying that certain people can use certain analogies to make a point. Well, I'm using an analogy to make a point. And the point I'm making is we should stop seeing each other on the basis of our skin color. It was god-awful when the KKK did it. But you know what? We have to learn a lesson in the present that we're creating more racial division in this country.
But you
when you say if you have black skin, you can only think one thing.
You cannot do it being insensitive to our feeling. Like that's like calling somebody of any kind of group that had a group that were terrorizing.
So I agree with you. We need sensitivity.
So I think we need to be very careful about that. And I wanted to raise that with you directly. Let me go to my next point.
And I respect that you're willing to have an open conversation. That's what we need in this country.
I want to ask you a couple of questions. And one thing, you know, if you talked, you mentioned we talked 20 years ago, and I'm going to get to that. But you should have known 20 years ago. You're not going to out-talk me. So let me ask my question. I'll let you talk. Then I'll go back to the next point.
Goes both ways, yeah.
All right. You've spoken out against affirmative action and diversity programs, even though it is a reporting in Axios and elsewhere have produced evidence. Your own former company has been involved in various DEI and ESG initiatives. Your own companies, DEI, diversity. I would hope we can agree that historically many communities of color have not enjoyed the same socio-economic benefits as white Americans. And many of those disparities persist to this day. What specifically would you do as president to address that problem, keeping in mind your own company got diversity business?
Yeah, so I want to be very clear about that. After I stepped down as CEO, precisely to speak my mind freely, the company that I founded went the direction of most companies in corporate America. And I disagree with that decision. But you're asking a more important question about what are we going to do to ensure equality of opportunity in this country. You're right. We have been an imperfect nation. I've always said it. But we aspire towards perfection. How do we go that next step? I want to make sure kids aren't trapped in the ghetto of a zip code that they happen to be born in. To the contrary, I think every parent deserves to have the opportunity to send their kids to the best possible school. That's why I favor radical school choice in this country. I think it's a mystery, Reverend Sharpton. The very people who will wax eloquent about systemic racism are also the ones who are opposed to educational mobility. That's why I've said shut down the U.S. Department of Education. Use that $80 billion. Put it in the hands of parents so they can actually send their kids to that best possible school they can. That's the actual civil rights issue of our time. So I stand for solutions. I stand for equality of opportunity. But I reject race-based quota systems.
I did not go to Harvard, but I know when a question is not answered. I did not ask you about education. I asked you about diversity in business. I asked you about a company you headed getting
now,
DEI.
that what Sharpton just used was a zinger. You know, I didn't go to Harvard, but I know when the question, that was a zinger. That was prepared. And nothing wrong with being prepared. A motto of the Boy Scouts is be prepared. However, Ramaswamy did answer the question. He asked him about his own company. Al Sharpton asked Ramaswamy about a company that he founded that is now practicing diversity and racial quotas. But Ramaswamy said that they made that decision after he stepped down as CEO. And more importantly, he said even when he heard that the company that he's no longer associated with made that decision, he disagreed with it. So the question was answered. Then Ramaswamy went on to give an analogy about the diversity, about the Board of Education, New York, not New York, but the Federal Board of Education, and that the teachers union, they've wrapped it up where children have to go to public schools and they are not allowed to go to private schools like the Outlaw High School or the Great Tomorrow's Elementary School. There are a lot of Christian-based private schools that are around, but the Board of Education got laws and on the books that do not allow parents to be able to pay the tuition, or the parents can't afford the tuition, I should say, to send their children to. There's a school down in Washington, D.C., where all the congresspersons, Elizabeth and I, we passed by it the other day, ran by a Presbyterian organization, a mega church, well, not a mega church, but a mega school, and all the Congress people, now, of course, you know, Obama and send his school children to a school called the Friends, which is also a very elite type of private school. But what Ramaswamy is saying, if the Board of Education was disbanded and parents were given vouchers so they could come to our school, we'd have better trained and better educated students, is what he's saying. But Al Sharpton don't want to bite that one. He knows it's true. But go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
How do we deal with
here's what I'm against.
Wait a minute. Let me ask the question again. How do we deal with
Go for it.
the economic disparity in businesses of color and people of color in the economic arena? You ran the school choice, good duck, but wrong show. Deal with the economic. You're a businessman.
It's actually related. You know, I know you're smarter than this to know that education leads to economic prosperity. So there's no Band-Aid fix.
But after you're educated, we have educated people that can't get contracts. We have educated people that have no problem with being educated that can't get contracts. How do you deal with the inequality in how they do business in this country, how they get jobs? That's where the DEI programs come from.
So I understand where they come from. I'm against it because it causes us to see one another on the basis of our skin color. I can tell you from personal experience, I have hired, both in businesses I've founded, even in this campaign, people who are black executives who have, I think, been unfairly judged. I put them in those positions because of merit. Other people at the companies and otherwise have seen those people as getting that position because of racial quota systems.
All right.
That is wrong, no matter whether you're black or white.
Many of them
we need to
were
go back to colorblind meritocracy. That's what we need in this country. That's how I've led the companies I've built. That's how I lead this country. Colorblind meritocracy. That's what we need.
Were barred and had the merit. But since you talked about experience, I need to show you this tape.
Yeah.
Back in 2003, when I ran for president, and you were there to ask me a question at a forum I was doing at Harvard University. So 20 years later, now my turn to ask.
Yeah.
Let me first play you the tape of you and I 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Good. Let's get to my question here. Go ahead. Reverend Sharpton, hello. I'm Vivek, and I want to ask you, last week on the show we had Senator Kerry, and this week and the week before we had Senator Edwards. And my question for you is, of all the Democratic candidates out there, why should I vote for the one with the least political experience?
Well, you shouldn't, because I have the most political experience. I got involved in the political movement when I was 12 years old. And I've been involved in social policy for the last 30 years. So don't confuse people that have a job with political experience. So 20 years later, now my turn to ask you, of all the Republican candidates out there, why should someone vote for you, the one with the least political experience? And I might add, you've never held office. You've only voted twice.
That's correct.
In the last few elections. You don't even vote regularly.
Yes.
And you support Donald Trump, who never held office until he was president. Well, you putting a different standard on me, but I won't even make the racial application there. Why should we vote for you?
Listen, at the age of 18, I think you persuaded me on that one, that political experience is not the same as holding office. To tell you the truth, the reason I came out there and I was intrigued.
Can I put out right-wing press that Sharpton converted a young, well, I don't want to take credit for
to
you.
To believe outside of political experience, I'm going to tell you the truth. One of the things, I'll even give you one more for you, okay? You were the only anti-war candidate back then. I was against the Iraq war. As I recall, you were the only anti-war candidate in either party. Well, guess what? Tables turn now. I'm the only true anti-war candidate in either political party now when it comes to Ukraine. I believe in America First policies. I think this Ukraine war does not advance American interests. I was the only person with the courage to say that on the Republican debate stage last week. The real war I would take on is the war against the administrative state, the shadow government here at home. I think the people who we elect to run the government, once again, ought to be the people who actually run the government, not the cancerous bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. I'll have a 75% headcount reduction for all of the people who weren't elected in Washington, D.C. So this is a very different vision than you hear amongst traditional Democrats, for sure.
Now, I have to just pause here. You can get pretty boring, except for looking at what Al Sharpton looked like 20 years ago and look at what he looked at now. Whatever happened to him? Did he have some sort of disease? People don't go from looking like a whale to looking like a snail. I mean, what is this? But you know, like the death of the Obama's cook up there in Massachusetts, Martha's Vineyard. We haven't heard any more about that. These kind of things they don't report. They don't tell us what really is happening. But what caused him to dry up like that? And if it was a plan that he had, such as a weight loss plan, well, he'd be a gazillionaire if he could sell that weight loss plan. He looks like a whale, looks like a pregnant whale, and now he looks like an emaciated snail. What is it? But they won't tell us what he won't. And his medical records are what you're gonna do. However, I think that what I do want to express here is that the Vivek Ramaswamy he's 38 years old, so his whole thing is not he was against the war. Al Sharpton was against the war in Iraq, or in that he's not against the war in Ukraine. I have to tell you that young people don't like wars, mainly because as young soldiers, as young men that go off to fight the wars. That's one reason that young folk don't like wars. And I don't know if there's ever been a bigger protest against a war than the Vietnam War. World War II, there was no protest, and not in a meaningful way. World War II garnered the support when Roosevelt decided after, well, let me not go too far. I did with that whole bad. Only because he's young, he's saying that. But go ahead, Mr. Engineer. But I think he's brilliant, this guy, Ramaswamy. I don't know if I'd vote for him. And Al Sharpton, I don't know what kind of ratings he's gotten after this broadcast, but he's still, as far as I'm concerned, a loser. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
Traditional Republicans. I want to shut down the administrative state. I want to declare independence from China. I want to grow our economy by drilling and fracking and embracing energy. And I want to revive national pride in this country. That's not a Republican idea or a Democratic vision. It is a pro-American vision. That's what I stand for. It's why I'm in this race.
I would take issue that when I opposed the war in Iraq and going for weapons of mass destruction that wasn't there, so I ended up being right, you can't compare that to the United States supporting Ukraine defending itself against Russia. So that's
Look, I think there's a myth that Ukraine's actually, I think I was against the Iraq war then, but I'm consistent now. Ukraine is not some democracy that we've now painted it to be. I think this is a regime that really has some serious flaws as well.
Ukraine is in
so I think I respectfully disagree with you.
Strategic place where
I respectfully disagree that I do not think
surrounded. But all right, we can agree to disagree on
Ukraine is not a NATO ally, and Ukraine doesn't advance U.S. interests. So that's one of the things that's distinctive about my views.
We disagree respectfully on that. Now, NBC is reporting that you were once a recipient of a fellowship for immigrants and children of immigrants from the Soros Foundation. You were awarded the fellowship in 2011 to support your studies at Yale Law School. And the issue is that you the child of Indian immigrants, are now accusing some immigrants of carrying out an invasion of the United States. And that as president, you would make it more difficult for children of immigrants born here to participate in the political process. The floor is yours to explain how you enjoyed from it, that you Sharpton convinced you could run for president, Soros helped you through college. Explain all of this.
Come on. So you know what's really kind of funny about this? That you draw a distinction between legal and illegal immigrants like it doesn't exist. And I think that's a major problem in this country. I think that we need to use our own military to secure our own southern border. Not an armed invasion across somebody else's random border, but across our own border right here in the United States of America. I stand for that. I believe in the rule of law. My parents came to this country legally, through the front door, followed the rules, paid their taxes, raised 2 kids. Both of us went on to found companies that helped thousands of Americans. But that also means that your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. That's part of what it means to be an American. We believe in the rule of law.
So yes, all right, okay, Mr. I think we've had enough. And I apologize for bringing Al Sharpton into your life today. But Vivek Ramaswamy is running for president. He's garnering about 5 to 7 percentage points in the polls, either behind Nikki Haley, or he's ahead of he and Ron DeSantis, those 4. Although Trump is way out there, Trump has already won the nomination to be the Republican candidate. I don't know why the other people are still out there. And Vivek Ramaswamy is getting a lot of press. Even I've covered him and had to insult you by bringing Al Sharpton into your presence today. But I think I've had enough of him, the 2 of them. They went on for a few more minutes, but that's enough. Enough is enough of where we are. What I'm going to do is that I am going to take a break. Mr. Engineer, do we have the school card that I asked for to be scanned in? I wanted to be able to give you a bit of a review of our school and the great things that we have done. I grew up a sharecropper's son. I graduated from a segregated high school, and I've been able over the years to, with the help of this church and the members of this church, and mainly the teachers and leaders, to the students that have graduated from our Outlaw High School, have gone on to law school, to Yale, to Juilliard, accepted at Yale, gone on to Juilliard and the advanced degree programs, going on to Cardozo Law School, New York Law School. We have been able to do, and what has happened to our ministry didn't happen by way of accident. It's just a very powerful church, and I have to tell you, we're going to do more. We're revamping our school system now since COVID, and we are just beginning to do great things with this ministry. And so I wanted to be able to show you that. I'm going to let you listen to to the daughter of the superintendent of our school. Her name is Truth Starr, and she gave a speech the other day doing family worship, and I think she's in the 11th grade, and she's the daughter of the superintendent of our school, Elder LaFleur. I'm going to let you listen to her for just a moment. Mr. Engineer.
Peace. My name is Truth LaFleur, and I've been here in this church for as long as I can remember, which is all 16 years of my life. I was born into this church, and I have attended this school since kindergarten. I'm now in the 11th grade. This church has done many things for my family. This church has fed me, educated, and loved me. There is never a day that I feel uncomfortable here, and that's because I always feel at home. I grew up with this place as my family. The teachings have really caused me to think about what I want to do in my life even more. For now, I think I'd like to own a bakery and then create other businesses, making me an entrepreneur. I honestly do not know how that is going to go, but I am praying about it. Pastor and Mother Manning have taken care of me plenty of times, and I'm thankful for that. My family has gotten many opportunities because they serve in this church. My siblings and I have had the chance to go skiing almost every year and enjoy other trips and activities. I was made a Vestal version a little over 2 years ago. Being a Vestal Virgin, I am now a part of a community of sisterhood. I have plenty of siblings, as you can see, but now I have more than one older sister. Not much about my relationship with the other ones have changed, and that's because they've known me for my whole life. For example, Esther somehow always finds a way to mention how she used to change our diapers. And till this day, I just look at her and laugh, because I'm pretty sure a couple of them had changed my diapers. They're always taking care of us Pentateuch Vestals. Elizabeth and Anna sometimes take the four of us, Genesis, Zipporah, Mariah, and I, out to K-Town or to the movies. And we all as a group have had picnics together. Being a Vestal Virgin with the rest of my sisters is a part of what makes me happy today, and I'm thankful for that. Growing up here, I can say without a doubt that I'm loved by everyone here. And I can say this because it is shown in everyone's actions. Pastor Manning is always giving. He loves to give it, and he can do it without a second thought. He wants the best for us because he believes that that is our worth, and I believe it too. My school life is both peaceful and comfortable. The teachers here have known me since I was a baby. I've learned from everyone here in the school, and that's why I'm in the place that I am in today. I enjoy talking with my teachers as they make me laugh, and then sometimes I'm annoyed by the amount of work they give. But I push through it with my friends. I'm happy and educated, and I'm on my way to becoming a successful person. What more do I need? This church has given me everything. This church has done countless things for me and my family, and I'm truly grateful for that. Thank you, Pastor and Mother Manning, for always being there for this family and always thinking of us. And thank God for this church and everyone who takes a part in making the children here happy and safe. Peace.
the Mellon Bank, to Judge Bluth, and to Judge Francis A. Kahn III. We shall not be moved.
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved.
Dash it up now.
We shall not be moved.
Clap with us now.
We shall not be moved.
Sing with us now.
We shall not be moved.
Come on now.
We shall not be moved.
Come on now.
We shall not be moved. 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 We shall not be moved.
Pastor Manny now.
We shall not be moved.
Mother Manny now.
We shall not be moved.
All the elders now.
We shall not be moved.
All the mothers now.
We shall not be
be moved.
We shall not 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 be moved.
All right, tragic death of Jimmy Buffett this weekend. I brought a tear of not a tear, brought a sense of sadness to me. The loss of Jimmy Buffett, and most famous song. Of course, he released a lot of really popular songs back in the 70s and the 80s. But Margaritaville was perhaps the biggest one and one I remember most, and still enjoy to this very day. I'll tell you, the music that came out of the 60s and 70s is just will live forever. But I want to read about about the story of his death, and the cause of his death has been revealed. The legendary singer has been battling Merkel cell skin cancer for 4 years, according to an official obituary posted on his website. Merkel cell carcinoma is a rare form of skin cancer that occurs when malignant cells form in the skin, as stated by the National Cancer Institute. The obituary also mentioned that Buffett continued to perform during his treatment with his last show being a surprise appearance in Rhode Island in early July. On September 1st, the, in quotations, Margaritaville, unquote, icon passed away at his home in Sag Harbor, Long Island at the age of 76, according to a statement posted on his website and the social media accounts. He died peacefully, surrounded by his family, friends, music, and dogs. The statement further expressed that Buffett lived his life like a song until his very last breath and will be deeply missed by many. Buffett is survived by his wife of 46 years, Jane Slagsville, and their 3 children, Savannah, Sarah, and Cameron. So we mourn the death of Jimmy Swaggart. I think Swaggart's still around. By the way, Swaggart used to be a favorite of mine, and maybe I shouldn't use the term post, it used to be a favorite of mine. I enjoy the teachings of Jimmy Swaggart. I mean, this is Jimmy Buffett, so I don't, I know what everybody else says about Swaggart, but I don't know if I want to go down the same road that they've gone down. I think he did a lot of good work. Anyway, but at 76 years old is young. I don't know if y'all been watching what's happening to Mitch McConnell, the minority leader of the Republicans who's been freezing up. He fell down at an event going back a couple of months ago and had a concussion. And twice now on camera and before reporters, he just freezes up for like 20 seconds, just stares into outer space. That happened to him the other day. He's 81 years of age. I think that prior to that fall, he was pretty cognizant of where he cognitive. Anyway, but that concussion is probably, I don't know whether or not he's going to be retiring anytime soon because he can't continue to do that. That's spooky, what's been happening to him. And talking about age, I think Biden is 82 years of age. And he walks like an old man, talks like an old man. But Trump is 77, I think, but he acts a whole lot younger. By the way, I don't know if y'all know this, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, he's still performing. I don't know who's Smash Mouth, Mick Jagger. He's still performing, still dancing the way Mick Jagger was dancing 40 years ago. He's 80 years old, Mick Jagger. And the young people have a hard time keeping up with him. And so he doesn't act or look or think like an 80-year-old. And Bob Dylan, one of my favorites, is 82 years old. And he's still touring, still performing, still singing. So, at 80 years old, Mick Jagger, still has the vitality. He runs and jumps. And so, I'm not sure that simply because Mitch McConnell is 81 years old that somehow or another he should be written off. But I think that whatever calls him, to freeze up like that needs to be either corrected or Mitch needs, I'm not telling him to retire, but a lot of people think that perhaps maybe he should. Dianne Feinstein out there, and I think she's 86 years old, and she's been sick. She's had this disease for the last 6 or 7 months, and she's in a wheelchair, and she's tends to be out of it from time to time. She's also a senator, Republican one, and they're trying to get her to resign. But I think she refuses to do that as well. At 86, she feels they should still want to hold on to power. All right, here's what I want to do now. I want to, there's an event, there's a constitutional statement of the 14th Amendment, the 13th, 14th Amendment, 13th and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution were written shortly after the, during the Lincoln presidency and after the presidency, mainly surrounding the former slaves, Hamites that they were, declaring that no person should be held as a slave in the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, that all people are free of slavery. And then the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which is what I want to focus on, was written for the purpose of now making all slaves citizens. Now, the reason why the 14th Amendment, I studied it, not because I'm a genius or constitutional scholar, but I studied the 14th Amendment of the Constitution because going back several years ago, I put Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy, the pole dancer, on trial inasmuch as that he was not a natural-born citizen of the United States. That he was born in Kenya, his mother flew over there to give birth to him in Kenya, and yet he lied and covered it up, and the world covered it up, and everybody just let it go. Nobody wanted, I mean, people still fighting to today, to this very day, saying he was born in America, but everybody knows he wasn't. He was born in Kenya. So the 14th Amendment is the thing that I studied when I put the long-legged Mac Daddy on trial. You have to be natural born. But the 14th Amendment was brought about after slavery had ended, that all people born in America were then American citizens, because even though the slaves had been freed by the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, they still weren't citizens. Check it out. They weren't citizens, so then they had to come back later on and put together an amendment to the Constitution that said that anyone who was born in America is a citizen, and therefore we get the term natural born, which Obama was not naturally born. He was born naturally in Kenya. And then, of course, the 15th Amendment was a rare move of American diplomacy, which gave black men, Hamites they are, the right to vote. So the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment to the Constitution, but what I want to focus on now is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, because Segment C of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution says, however, anybody who's led an insurrection or taken an oath to defend the Constitution of America but has led an insurrection against America cannot serve and cannot hold any national federal office. So a lot of people saying that Trump can't because he led an insurrection. I'm going to ask the engineer to bring up video number 1, and we'll hear some talk about that. And I'll leave my mic open.
New Hampshire, the state with the first Republican primary of the 2024 election season, is quickly becoming a hotbed for the debate over whether Donald Trump is constitutionally banned from ever serving as president again under the 14th Amendment. This week, a Republican candidate for president filed a lawsuit to disqualify Donald Trump from New Hampshire's primary there. And a former Trump-endorsed Senate candidate made headlines by calling for the Secretary of State to take action. Now, the New York Times is reporting that the activist group Free Speech for the People, quote, sent a letter to the Secretaries of State in New Hampshire, as well as Florida, New Mexico, Ohio, and Wisconsin, urging them to bar Trump from the ballot under the 14th Amendment. The New York Times adds this, quote, the New Hampshire Republican Party said this week that it would challenge any effort to remove Trump or any other candidates who have met requirements from the ballot. What happens here could lead to a legal showdown that goes all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Joining our conversation, legal director for Free Speech for People, the group that sent the letter to those 5 secretaries of state, Ron Fine, is here. Dahlia Lithwick is back with us as well. Ron, we've heard from Judge Ludig, who kind of legally put this out there by locking arms with progressive law professor Lawrence Tribe. We've heard from a Secretary of State on our program that they're looking at this along with other secretaries of state and other battleground states. Just take me inside your effort and your understanding of how the Constitution bars Donald Trump from being on the ballot.
Thanks, Nicole. Well, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says that anyone who took an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States is forever barred from public office unless and until 2/3 of both houses of Congress vote to grant that person amnesty. January 6th was a violent insurrection that not only took over the U.S. Capitol, nearly assassinated the vice president and several congressional leaders, but disrupted the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in our nation's history. That's farther than the Confederacy ever got. And Trump engaged in it by inciting it, facilitating it, fomenting it, and goading the insurrectionists on while it happened. And that's why he is disqualified under the Constitution.
People who, I think, intuit the accuracy and the soundness of what you're saying, I think represent a whole lot of Democrats, a whole lot of independents, and others who don't support Donald Trump. People who support Donald Trump being there either deny the truth, what we saw with all of our eyes and ears, or are the ones who will come up with legal arguments why this is not the appropriate application of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. What do you say to them?
Well, some people are arguing that Donald Trump isn't disqualified under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. But there's also a lot of people who are basically arguing that the 14th Amendment shouldn't be in the Constitution at all. But it is. We already had that debate about whether somebody who broke their oath and engaged in insurrection is disqualified from public office. We settled that debate in 1866 when we added the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, and then in 1868 when 3/4 of the states ratified it. So just like if Barack Obama showed up with papers to file for running for election as president, he would be unqualified. He's ineligible because he's already served 2 terms. Just like if somebody who's 12 years old filed papers, they're not old enough. Or somebody who wasn't born in the United States, they're not a natural born citizen. These are provisions of the Constitution that define eligibility. And frankly, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment applying to people who broke their oath and engaged in insurrection is actually in many ways more important than any of those other qualifications.
All right, Mr. Engineer, I have to pause right there. Drop that. I want to. I'm going to bring this back on the next time we get an opportunity to broadcast the Manning Report, perhaps tomorrow. But I want to drop something on you and the members of the Outlaw War Missionary Church, and who have stood with me and supported me through some very, very trying times. What the 14th Amendment of the Constitution says right now is that Donald Trump cannot be president. And I don't know how America's going to react to that. Some people may just say, let's not have that argument. Let's just let him run, because it's going to cause all kind of havoc. Because really, the Constitution bars him from running for the reasons you just heard, of him taking an oath and then leading an insurrection against the Constitution or against the government. And he doesn't have to be convicted. But if he was participating in it or gave comfort, aid and comfort to those who did participate, he's ineligible. And so Trump can't be president. Now, he may very well, people may just say, let's let it go. But 2 very distinguished law persons, law professor Lawrence Tribe, who taught at Harvard for 50 years, says he shouldn't. And very conservative Judge Luttig has also stated that he shouldn't because of the amendment to the Constitution. The irony here that I want to drop, Sister Bennett, is that Obama was barred from being president because of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, everybody, Outlaw members, listen to this very carefully, because there may be more revelations coming forward. Obama was barred from running for president or being president because of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. But the media and the Democrats and others found a way to say he was born in Honolulu, even lied, but we've never seen an actual Hawaiian birth certificate. But his grandmother, his African grandmother, said he was born in Kenya. And so you know the battle I fought. Obama was never the president. He was never the president. Now it appears, while Trump is now being barred for the same thing that Obama was barred for, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And here's what I want to connect. Obama's the son of Satan. Tribulation Trump is a servant of Satan. There were some tumultuous years when I stood and said Obama wasn't president, and though he was put in that office, it was done so illegally, which disqualified it, which in the sense of the Constitution, if you ask the Constitution to stand up as a person, the Constitution as an individual, ask the Constitution, is Obama the president of the United States of America? They would say no. It would say no. Then who was? Hillary Clinton was the president, because Obama could not be the president. Now, the 14th Amendment because Obama was not natural born. Now we're discovering that because of Trump's participation in the January 6th insurrection, the Constitution says he can't be president. Now, what's going to happen? They're going to do the same thing they did with Obama. They're going to put him in anyway, even though it's absolutely clear that he should not be. They're going to put him in for sake of for peace in the valley, if you so-called. They're going to do it. They're not going to. The states, I don't think. Maybe they will. Let me just not adamantly say that they will not. But the sense is now they're going to do the same thing with Trump in the 14th Amendment that they did with Obama with the 14th Amendment, knowing that he could not, should not, that if the Constitution was a human being, it would say, if you ask the Constitution, was Obama ever president of the United States of America, it would say no. Esther Bennett. And looking now at the Constitution and Segment 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, it says Trump cannot be the president of the United States. Those two similarities. And Trump, of course, defeated Hillary Clinton as well. So there's a lot here to unpack going forward. I wanted to be able to make that analogy. I'm going to close out. I'm going to ask the engineer to bring up our minister of music at the memorial service for the generous servant. I'm coming back to that matter of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. I'm coming back to that. But I'm going to ask the engineer to bring up our minister of music at the memorial service for the generous servant, and let that be a doorstop to get us to the top of the hour. We pray that the broadcast has been a blessing to you. We ask that you would help us grow our broadcast. We thank you for logging on as you do. And we pray that you are learning something every day. And that you're learning that I'm always right. But it's a lot of fun doing this. I really have a great life to be able to do this, to be able to be a pastor, an educator, a teacher, a philosopher, if you will. And it's just a really great, great time for me. All right, Mr. Engineer, I'm going to let you, this is our minister of music. She's going to take us to the top of the hour.